Science of Magic with Gwilda Wiyaka is largely an opinion talk show. All opinions, comments, or statements of fact expressed by Gwilda Wiyaka's guests are strictly their own and are not to be construed as those of the Science of Magic or endorsed in any manner by Gwilda Wiyaka, Relmar McConnell Media Company, its affiliated networks, stations, or employees. Welcome to the Science of Magic with Gwilda Wiyaka, a program dedicated to uncovering the unified nature of reality and humanity's ever-evolving place as truly galactic beings. For more information on the Science of Magic with Gwilda Wiyaka, visit us online at www.thescienceofmagic.net.
Welcome to the Science of Magic, a place where science and magic come together to transform fact into evolving truth. We can be found on our website, www.thescienceofmagic.net. I'm your host, Gwilda Wiyaka. This hour we'll be exploring shamanism and evolution. There's an erroneous assumption among many esoteric factions that in order to evolve spiritually, we have to rise above our baser promptings. I would argue it's not so much a matter of rising above as it is moving through. When we attempt to rise above something, be it rage, jealousy, shame, guilt, or fear, what we're really doing is disregarding their presence, shoving them into denial, and moving on. It'd be great if that particular method worked. Unfortunately, it does not. Instead, we're impacting all the unprocessed negativity into our bodies, physical, emotional, mental, and spiritual. This is energy expensive as it requires physical restrictions, emotional shutdown, mental compartmentalization, and lowering of spiritual frequency to avoid triggering the stored hazmat. We become minefields of potential triggers that, when activated, are unwittingly projected onto others. After all, they must belong to someone else. We're spiritually evolved and far above such things, right? Not so much. Many of us have recognized the importance of processing our issues and imbalances in order to evolve. We clean up our diet, exercise, obtain counseling for unresolved emotional issues, and mentally reframe the way we view life. We may take up spiritual practices and try to live good lives, but the minefields remain. Why? We're all exposed to various forms and degrees of trauma. It's simply a part of the human condition. Trauma creates imbalance that affects us at the physical, mental, emotional, and spiritual levels, or quantum level. In order to obtain enough frequency to evolve, we must address the imbalance at all four. For the most part, in modern-day culture, the quantum level of our being is left untreated. But the quantum level is where the push-pull of manifestation takes place. Throw a wrench into the push-pull of our lives and you manifest dysfunction. The need for spiritual healing has been recognized by indigenous cultures for millennia. Follow any nationality to its roots and you'll find a shamanic practice. For the last 40 to 50,000 years, shamans have been treating spiritual illness. It stands to reason that if 1/4 of illness is spiritual, 1/4 of our healing modalities should be shamanically based. Yet, over the last 200 years or so, shamanism has been nearly eradicated. Why? Shamanism brings balance and thus personal empowerment to the individual. This is the last thing factions trying to subjugate a culture want. Thus, the persecution of shaman worldwide. Here, in the land of the free and home of the brave, where the Constitution grants freedom of religion, it was still illegal for Native Americans to practice their religious and shamanic ceremonies until the Native American Religious Freedom Act was implemented in 1978. Fortunately, in spite of government opposition and oppression, the world's indigenous people managed to preserve their shamanic practices. Thanks to their diligence and willingness to share their knowledge, there's now a resurgence of shamanism and shamanic healing. The resulting increase in shamanic practitioners who can successfully treat spiritual illness greatly enhances our ability to evolve. Unlike other healing modalities, however, shamanism is not regulated. I'm not indicating that I'm particularly in favor of regulation, mind you, but the point I would like to make is this. In the absence of accountability, anyone can take a weekend course from a dubious teacher and hang out their shingle as a shaman or shamanic practitioner. Or they can choose to skip the training altogether. So buyer beware. Our guest this hour, CODY Alexander, is a modern-day certified shamanic practitioner. Cody's fascination with the esoteric began 40 years ago. Her search eventually led her to Native American spirituality. Under the teachings of Lakota elder Grandfather David of the Standing Buffalo Clan, Cody served for 4 years as a Sundance drummer and became an ordained minister of Native American spirituality in 2009. Her continued search led her to shamanism and a Colorado State certified occupational school, Path Home Shamanic Arts School. She graduated with honors as a certified shamanic practitioner and a certified shamanic instructor. Cody has dedicated her life to the path of service, helping awaken and empower others using shamanism to heal and transform. After this commercial break, I'll introduce Cody, and together we'll examine shamanism, professionalism, and emotional healing, so don't go away. You're listening to The Science of Magic. Prior innovative episodes can be found on our website, www.thescienceofmagic.net. The scientist and the mystic have been on an age-old, relentless search with one thing in common. They seek truth. Their paths converge in the 40,000-year-old practice of shamanism, an ancient science delving to the quantum level of life, facilitating healing, manifestation, and evolution. I'm Gwilda Wiyaka, the founder and director of Path Home Shamanic Arts School, a unique Colorado State certified occupational school training shamanic practitioners and teachers. We also provide classes for empowering personal lives through shamanism. Our certification classes are in week-long segments enabling international participation, and online classes and long-distance shamanic healing sessions are available. Come discover the science of magic in the limitless world of shamanism. www.findyourpathhome.com. Welcome back. This is The Science of Magic, dedicated to unification and evolution of consciousness. I'm your host, Gwilda Wiyaka. Our guest this hour, Cody Alexander, is a certified shamanic practitioner and teacher, musician, singer-songwriter, and ordained minister of Native American spirituality. Her website, www.codyalexander.net. Cody, thank you for joining us on The Science of Magic.
Thank you for having me.
Let's start out with the definition. So what exactly, in your terms, is shamanism?
Shamanism is an organized set of rituals that enables the practitioner to manage matter at the quantum level. And those are actually not my own words, but those are the words that came with the training in the school. And I find it to be a very logical explanation of what is often viewed as a magical, mystical practice. So it brings it down to a level of science.
What prompted you to become a shamanic practitioner?
When I started the training in the school, I had already done a lot of spiritual work and searching for a few decades before that, but I really didn't have the intention of becoming a shamanic practitioner when I began. After I experienced the power of the modality, I decided this is just too amazing not to become a practitioner in order to affect a difference, because there's so many people who I see need this kind of healing, and it's not generally available. That I really wanted to make a difference, and so I ended up going through the entire training in order to become a practitioner.
Would you mind telling us a little bit about spiritual illness? What is, shamanically speaking, what is spiritual illness?
Spiritual illness is a disconnect from our nature, our natural gifts and talents that we come in with when we incarnate here. And it happens through trauma. Growing up here, this is a difficult world, and so when we experience trauma, whether it's through our familial patterning growing up, or socially, or through our training in schools, what ends up happening is that we disconnect from our natural gifts and talents and are unable to reconnect to them because of the damage. And so there's a drop in energy in our toroidal field. It's like an electrical short that happens. And so then the entire frequency of the toroidal field drops, and it limits our ability to manifest our own joy, the things that we would really like to be able to do while we're here.
Would you mind going a little bit into toroidal field? What do you mean by toroidal field?
Toroidal field is an energetic field that looks kind of like a donut. The Earth has a toroidal field. Our organs have toroidal fields. Molecules have toroidal fields. The galaxy has a toroidal field. And if you look at a diagram of the Earth, I think it's familiar to a lot of people. The energy comes in at the North Pole and exits at the South Pole and moves through the entire planet. And this particular structure is common to all aspects of creation. And as each of our organs, our chakras, our molecules have these toroidal fields, they blend together to create a general toroidal field, which is our overall field. And so if there's a drop in frequency, a place of damage, a place of resistance, in any aspect of that, then the overall frequency drops.
So is the toroidal field what some people would call an auric field?
Yes, it is.
So it's also run by the chakras?
Yes, it is.
Do you find that damage takes up place in the chakric system as well?
Yes, I do. The chakric system is intimately connected with our energy, our ability to manifest, and each one of the chakras has specific characteristics. So, for instance, the root chakra, or in the red, or the reproductive organs, is our connection to the planet. This is our ability to create, so the raw creative power. And the lower three chakras are our connection to the earth. So generally speaking, when those areas are targeted, which tends to be fairly common in this society, our ability to create, our sense of self, that's the second chakra, our will center, that's the third chakra, all below the heart. When these places are damaged through trauma that we experience in this life, then our ability to manifest anything here is greatly compromised. And so the overall energy that we are able to produce for ourselves or for anything else is greatly diminished.
So would you mind going into and explain a little bit about shamanic healing? How does it work?
Shamanic healing is a modality where the practitioner becomes the bridge between the client and the client. So when damage occurs, when that disconnect happens, there's a polarity reversal in the energetic field, where before, say for instance, you have feelings of self-worth, that you're a worthy person, that you are capable of going out into the world in a good way, then when the polarity reversal occurs through whatever experience, then all of a sudden you lose that sense of self-worth. You lose that ability to feel like you have anything good to offer. And when that happens, it's not that that gift is gone forever. It's just that we are no longer able to connect to that particular gift. And this happens on all different kinds of levels and all different aspects. And so when that disconnect happens, the person is no longer able to access their own natural gifts in that way. And so with shamanic healing, what the practitioner does is trace where the original damage occurred, and through a frequency shift or healing, they're able to bring that aspect, that connection to that aspect, back to the client so that they can access it once again.
Does it happen automatically, or does the client have to do something?
There's quite a bit of processing that's required once the shamanic healing has taken place. So then that's when the true work begins on behalf of the client, or actually that the client needs to do for themselves. And so we call that processing, and what may end up happening is the client may experience memories that they haven't had in a long time, emotions that they have stuffed for quite a while. They may experience a healing crisis, some kind of a physical reaction, or what looks like an illness. The trick is to maintain objectivity and to watch these experiences go by like you would flotsam on a river, and just recognize, oh, that's what this is, and that's what this is. So you're engaging your interior observer in order to monitor what's going by. If you can journal it, that's really great. Not attach to it or judge it for coming up, because these are all things that were stuffed at the moment of damage. And when there comes an opportunity where it's safe for them to actually express, there's no diminishing in the intensity of the emotion or the memory. It feels as intense as when the original experience was stuffed and put in a compartment. So the job of the client is to just be patient with themselves and to allow whatever shows up to move through, take note, and if they can, journal it, and just watch and see what happens. So really engaging that internal observer, taking responsibility for your own stuff, for your own damage, really seeing it, oh, this is a part of me, I get that, and then moving on from there.
So do you engage or encourage your clients to engage the help of other practitioners if they're starting to struggle, like a psychotherapist?
Yes, actually, I do, because the other modalities are absolutely vital. We really do need support on all the levels, like you said, the physical, emotional, mental, and spiritual. And so by engaging all of these different modalities, especially when you find yourself in a tough space, asking for help is a really good thing in whichever venue seems to be appropriate for you.
So do you have a referral base that you use, people that are, practitioners of other healing arts that are still familiar enough with shamanism to interface?
Yes, I absolutely do. There are other practitioners, psychiatrists, people who work with NLP, other modalities that are very powerful and that are very helpful. I've used them myself when I have gotten into places where I really needed some assistance. So yes, I do.
So do you kind of stair-step your way out? In other words, hit an issue, process it out, and then go back in for more if you're carrying quite a bit of damage?
Yes, I find that is the best way to approach it. It's like damage is like the layers of an onion. So at the core may be the very worst aspect of it, and then there are elements that move out that might be a little bit easier to address. So starting from the outside in, whatever seems to be up for all of the selves, the physical, emotional, mental, and spiritual, to address first is a great way to start, and then go through the processing that occurs once you have the healing, and then giving yourself a little bit of space, observing perhaps the differences in how you relate to your life, and then watching for the next piece. Where is the next step in this particular issue? And it's a natural and organic thing. You don't really have to think about it. It'll definitely arise. So doing it stepwise is a very good thing to do, because we want to be gentle with this process. We don't want to go too quickly, because there is the risk of actually engaging in more damage.
That's amazing. We're going to have to take a break here pretty soon. On the other side of the break, I'd like to get into how we figure out exactly where we go with shamanic healing and why. Because, there's any number of directions we can go with it. And so we're going to ask CODY, well, how do you figure out what to treat in a person? Normally in our modalities, we go, okay, we're going to do a diagnosis, and then we're going to come up with a treatment. I wonder if it's the same. It could be very interesting to find out. Our guest this hour is CODY Alexander. She's a certified shamanic practitioner and teacher, musician, singer-songwriter, and an ordained minister of Native American spirituality. Her website, www.codyalexander.net. CODY and I will return to our discussion after the news at the bottom of the hour. You're listening to The Science of Magic. I'm your host, Gwilda Wiyaka. Previous broadcasts of thought-provoking episodes can always be found on our website, www.thescienceofmagic.net. We will be back, so don't you go away. The scientist and the mystic have been on an age-old, relentless search with one thing in common. They seek truth. Their paths converge in the 40,000-year-old practice of shamanism, an ancient science delving to the quantum level of life, facilitating healing, manifestation, and evolution. I'm Gwilda Wiyaka, the founder and director of Path Home Shamanic Arts School, a unique Colorado State certified occupational school training shamanic practitioners and teachers. We also provide classes for empowering personal lives through shamanism. Our certification classes are in week-long segments enabling international participation, and online classes and long-distance shamanic healing sessions are available. Come discover the science of magic in the limitless world of shamanism. www.findyourpathhome.com. Welcome back. This is the Science of Magic, a place where magic and science come together to promote enlightenment. Visit us online at www.thescienceofmagic.net. I'm your host, Gwilda Wiyaka. Our guest this hour, CODY ALEXANDER, is a certified shamanic practitioner that currently offers private long-distance shamanic healing sessions internationally through Path Home Shamanic Arts. She's available on their website, www.findyourpathhome.com, and click on private sessions. Her personal website, www.codyalexander.net. CODY, welcome back.
Thank you.
We were about to go into how do you tell where to work? So, we've all, I assume, suffered a fair amount of damage. So how do you know which to tackle first?
One of the things that's included among many in the training is to set aside any personal agendas I might have before I work on a client's behalf. And there are several methods to do this, including what's called a diagnostic journey, so that when I initially speak with a client, the work begins then, once the appointment is set. And so I go into journey trance and ask what is appropriate to do at this time, what is mine to do here. So I'm not really setting an agenda. My only purpose is to align with the client's intent and bottom line to work on their behalf in the best interest of all concerned. And so I'm really giving this up to with my intention to work in that same way, so that I can do for the client what is appropriate at this time.
So would you tell us a little bit more about intent and bottom line?
Yeah, intention, people get intention. They'll have an intention to heal a specific issue. One of the challenges is to narrow down the intention to something very specific rather than I want to achieve world peace. That's a little bit large. A better, or I should say a little more reasonable approach would be what are my next steps in order to achieve a peaceful self? So then that would be the intent. The bottom line would be under which circumstances would I allow this intent to be fulfilled? So for instance, if I have no bottom line, pretty much we're opening it up to the universe to determine how things are going to go, and there is no agenda as to how things go. So if I want to have physical health, if I would like to have longevity, if I would like to have grace and ease, if I would like to have my family stay a nice, good, strong family unit, these are all things that would go into my bottom line. So I'm stating conditions around which that intention will become manifest. So for instance, if I wanted to be healed right now, yesterday, I don't care what it takes, which is like, don't do that. I don't care what it takes. It's a huge venue, and anything can happen. So if I wanted to have complete healing, that complete healing might involve my death. And if I'm okay with that, well, then maybe that's the way to go. But for me, I would rather not. I'd like to be here a little bit longer, so then that would include the aspects of longevity, good health, grace and ease, and like that.
I understand that the term soul loss is pretty common in shamanic practices. Would you explain what that is? I mean, we don't really lose our soul, right?
No, we don't lose our souls. Our aspects, all of what we are, remains in our energetic field. And soul loss is a generic shamanic term that is very commonly recognized, which really describes the disconnect of the self from the self. So it's not that your soul goes away someplace. It's just you can't get there from where you are. You can't even see where that is because there's a disconnect that's so complete, you can't find it. And oftentimes we really shut off our memory as to the original damage, so we may not even know that it's happened. But the breadcrumbs, the effects of that particular damage will remain, but we won't know why that it's there. So that's the function of the shamanic practitioner, is to help track those breadcrumbs and go back in and heal and bring it back to connect to the client.
Would you mind explaining what those breadcrumbs look like or giving an example?
Yes, they can look like any number of things. A drop in energy is one. Physical illness, a propensity, is another. Propensity toward accident. Repeated patterns that happen in the life that occur around a specific theme where you are the common denominator. Inability to move beyond certain things, like no matter what aspects you try, no matter what other healing modalities you try, that they don't seem to get you to the goal. There always seems to be one step that's missing in order for you to really move beyond a particular issue. So those are all things that are indications that there's something deeper at work here.
So in other words, like the faces may change, the location may change, but the scenario repeats and you're the common denominator?
Exactly.
How would you advise a person to be able to tell or discern that they're suffering from soul loss?
One of the ways to tell is if there are knee-jerk reactions and circumstances where you have an automatic response and you are a passenger. There doesn't seem to be any way for you to sidestep or correct or do something differently, even though you're watching the same pattern occur over and over again. So, for instance, an emotional reaction that is way greater than the circumstance of the person that you're engaging with would indicate. So this huge reaction to a small thing is an indication that there's something not quite right and that needs to be looked at. Repeated illnesses, just kind of going into the same kind of thing, or one after another. There could be a pattern of needing some kind of an emotional support, and maybe the illness is the only way that this person can get the emotional support. In levels of education, sometimes there will be blocks or gaps that prevent a person from actually moving forward within a particular arena. Even though they want to go to this place, they might be experiencing blocks that prevent them from doing so, and they don't understand what that is. So there's a variety of aspects where you just can't seem to get beyond a certain point. It looks like you hit a wall. Those are really good indications.
So a person's kind of working against themselves?
That's exactly right. It's energy expensive. It seems like no matter what you do, you have to throw so much voltage, so much effort into just moving that it feels like you're carrying tonnage behind you, and it's just not easy to move forward at all. So yes, absolutely.
What about our thought forms and the way we frame our life? Does soul loss affect that as well?
Yes, it does. What ends up happening with soul loss is that we will reframe our relationship to the world. So we will reframe the way that we think about ourselves, and often this results in a lot of self-criticism, a lot of self-talk that says, oh, no, I can't do that. I couldn't possibly do that. Or this is too much for me. Or no, I can't have that because it's too good for me. Or I'm only safe if I do blank. Or the thought patterns are a repeated story that we tell ourselves that's really not true. It's a result of the damage, and it's put in place almost like a computer program that runs underneath everything else. So that even if you try all the other modalities to get beyond whatever it is you're trying to deal with, unless you get at that root computer program, it's like a virus in the computer. You just can't move beyond it until you take care of the original virus. And then first of all, you've got to find it in order to take care of it. And then once you do, then it can be addressed.
So that's the practitioner's job, is to find that for the person.
That's exactly right.
So when we come back, I would really like to go into shamanism and spiritual evolution. Are you willing to go there with me?
That sounds good.
See how easy you are? So we have about 30 seconds. Would you just introduce spiritual evolution?
Spiritual evolution is a process of raising our frequency through addressing the internal damage that we have undergone in this life. The planet is evolving just fine. Humans are not, because we tend to be very resistant to change. And so addressing that change, moving through it, taking responsibility personally is part of the evolutionary process.
Very lovely. And on the other side of this break, we will talk about shamanism and spiritual evolution. Cody and I will be back on the flip side of this commercial break. You're listening to The Science of Magic, the place where altruistic professionals of science and the esoteric create common ground for the betterment of our world. You can always listen to previous transformative broadcasts on our website, www.thescienceofmagic.net. The scientist and the mystic have been on an age-old, relentless search with one thing in common. They seek truth. Their paths converge in the 40,000-year-old practice of shamanism, an ancient science delving to the quantum level of life, facilitating healing, manifestation, and evolution. I'm Gwilda Wiyaka, the founder and director of Path Home Shamanic Arts School, a unique Colorado State certified occupational school training shamanic practitioners and teachers. We also provide classes for empowering personal lives through shamanism. Our certification classes are in week-long segments enabling international participation, and online classes and long-distance shamanic healing sessions are available. Come discover the science of magic in the limitless world of shamanism. www.findyourpathhome.com. Welcome back. This is The Science of Magic, bringing together gifted people of service to the world. Our website is www.thescienceofmagic.net. I'm your host, Gwilda Wiyaka. Our guest this hour, CODY ALEXANDER, is a certified shamanic practitioner that currently offers private long-distance shamanic healing sessions internationally through Path Home Shamanic Arts. She is available on their website, www.findyourpathhome.com. Click on private sessions. Her personal website, www.codyalexander.net. Cody, we were just getting into spiritual evolution and how shamanism can aid that. Would you mind speaking to that?
Yes. What's happening right now is that our planet is being bombarded by extremely high frequency waves, and it is causing everything to rise in frequency. And any place where there's a block or resistance is going to move one way or another. So it might shatter, it might dissolve. One way or another, the frequency is irresistible. We are in this stream of this rising tide. And so the planet is doing fine. She does this on a regular basis. The challenge is that humans, with all of our structures and our resistance and our judgments, tend not to want to change because of various fears that we have about that. And so whenever we have a resistance to something, that's a place where there is no movement. And if there's no movement, there's no flexibility. And if there's no flexibility, there's no possibility of evolution. So anywhere where there is no movement, whether it's physical, emotional, mental, or spiritual, there's going to be some kind of problem or stress. that happens within the self. And unless we address that particular aspect and move through the healing required, one way or another, it's going to get taken care of because nature will have its way. So it's up to us to decide what we want to do, if we want to actually address these things and change, or if we don't, and allow nature to take its course. So we have an opportunity here to evolve or devolve. There is no standing in the middle of the road anymore. There's no sitting on the fence and saying, oh, well, I'll just wait and see. Those days are gone. So we really have to be mindful, or it would be a good idea to be mindful of what actions we might take proactively in order to make this process a little more easier and graceful.
So as I'm listening to you here, CODY, things are kind of hooking up in my mind, and I'm thinking, we're really experiencing an increase of violence and angst and terrorism, and it goes on and on and on and on. Do you think that's related to not moving and the resulting pressure?
I absolutely do think that is related, because where there are imbalances, now the increase in violence feels very heavily that there are resistances or blocks or damage in the emotional field, and we've been very good as a world to deny dealing with the internal rage and grief just from our cultural damage. And so when things start rising in frequency, there comes sometimes for some individuals a breaking point where, say for instance, if they've got a pattern of rage and they've just managed to hold on barely, without addressing the source of that rage, without approaching some kind of healing in order to deal with the rage in a positive way, it just keeps building and building and building until there's an explosion. And when that explosion happens, it can manifest in a multitude of ways. And so that's when we see people who take a gun and go off and shoot a bunch of people, or the jihad, the terrorist activities. This is a group mentality where they are willing to engage their group rage and their group grief in order to do something that they feel is proactive, but it's actually an action of extreme personal damage.
How much do you think dogmatic religions play into this at this point?
Dogmatic religions are very interesting. There is another example of rigid behavior, and as we see with this rise in frequency, anything that's rigid is not going to do very well. So in order to maintain the rigidity, more and more extreme actions need to be taken in order to resist the incoming tide. So it's like a tsunami approaching the land. It's going to sweep away everything. Dogma does not do well in this frequency. And so with the resistance of dogma, there is more rhetoric that comes out trying to push the same message that applies to a world that we're moving out of, the world of dog eat dog, the world of every person for themselves, the world that, I'm a victim here and I have no control. We're moving into a place of self-empowerment, if we choose to take it, of a place where we can work with each other, where we can work at teams, where we can find solid common ground, where we can effect a change through being open to other ideas. Those are the things that are being supported by this frequency, because it's a frequency of unity and of oneness and of not being alone and trying to effect a change. So dogmatic religions, it's a challenge for them, and it's a challenge for the world, because we see the effects of what the preachings are. And this is across the board. It doesn't matter what religion it is.
So what does a person need to consider when they're looking for a shamanic practitioner? I mean, how do you find a good one if you're wanting to do this?
I would advise really doing your research, looking up this person. If they've got a website, look at their About page, see what the extensive, how much training they've had. If there's nothing that indicates any kind of education of any substance, then I would suggest not engaging. It takes a lot of personal work and a lot of training in order to be effective in this field. And without that sort of background, I don't know how effective that person can be. Some people are naturally gifted, but what I've found through my own experience is that gifted does not mean that you're trained and that you know really what to do, or that you have all the techniques and protocols in place in order to do the work safely on your person's behalf and on your behalf. So I would really do research and look at these people's backgrounds and look at feedback on their work and then go from there.
Can shamanic healing be done long distance? I mean, one of the problems we're dealing with right now is there's not that many shamanic practitioners because it was almost, like we said, eradicated. But so, if somebody's a long ways away from who they want to work with, can you do this long distance?
The beauty of this work is that it's absolutely effective long distance because we're on each other's energetic wire all the time. And what we're doing is consciously affecting a connection between the practitioner and the client so that they may as well be in the same room. It's absolutely as powerful as someone who would be sitting here with me. So the distance is an illusion. We really are connected, and the shamanic practitioner is going to be working inside the client's energetic field in order to track what's going on and to effect a change for them. So yes, absolutely, it's very powerful long distance.
I have about a minute left. Would you mind telling people how they can obtain your services?
I can be found through findyourpathhome.com. They can set up an appointment that way, or else they can go to my website at codyalexander.net, and there are links that they can follow to do that.
And just really quick, Cody, thank you so much for being on the show. Your wisdom is wonderful and helps to enlighten us as to the mystery of shamanism. So, how many sessions does it take to effect a cure?
That really is subjective. It depends on the person. It depends on their intent. How deep do they want to go? It can be ongoing, or it could be as simple as one time, depending on where they want to go with it and how deep they want to go. So it's really variable depending upon the person.
Very nice. Our guest this hour has been CODY ALEXANDER. She's a certified shamanic practitioner that currently offers private long-distance shamanic sessions internationally through Path Home, www.findyourpathhome.com. Click on private sessions. This has been The Science of Magic. Remember, you can always listen to past thought-provoking episodes on our website, www.thescienceofmagic.net. Until next time, dear ones, may you be blessed with knowledge and comforted with love on your sacred path to wholeness.